everybody, welcome to this thermal craft tutorial. Today with me is Briggsmech, who is very much the more learned of the two of us. I am still just an apprentice. But today we are going to show you how to start basic RF with an arboreal extractor. Briggsmech?
Hello.
Hi. So, I know we have to start with a very large spruce tree that has very few leaves at the top.
This is the ideal situation, is to
Mhm.
start with a 2 by 2 tree. But remember, you can use any tree to do this.
Right.
Uh, the only reason why we chose this tree is for the fact that it's a 2 by 2, it's very tall. A jungle tree would also work, but again, it just doesn't seem to produce quite as much sap as these spruce trees do.
Right. And I should also mention we are playing on FTB's um, Direwolf
Direwolf.
20 112 2 pack. I always forget that part. So we do have other mods other than just Thermalcraft in this particular mod pack. But today we're going to be focusing solely on how to get power from Thermalcraft. But yeah,
Exactly.
this tree is good, but probably not the best one I've ever gotten.
No, but this is a good average
Yeah.
size tree. So this will be a great demonstration of
Yes.
what can be done.
Yes. And for this demonstration and what you're going to need for everything that is to come, we've we've set this up. So you're going to need a redstone transmission coil, at least what, three or four?
Of the transmission coils,
Yes.
well,
Uh,
for the very beginning setup, we're just going to do one,
right.
and then ultimately we'll need three
Right.
because we're going to make three dynamos. But in the in this very first, most basic setup that you can reasonably get to. And remember, our goal here is not just power. Our goal here is infinite uh, power that you don't have to constantly refuel. That's the beauty of this system.
Something you essentially don't have to babysit.
Yes.
But to make this redstone transmission coil, you are going to need two pieces of redstone and a silver ingot. You're also going to need a couple of device frames for different items. And to make that, you're going to need four tin ingots, four pieces of glass, and a copper gear, which is four copper ingots. You're also going to need some machine frames, which are four iron ingots, four pieces of glass, and a tin gear, which, similar to the copper gear, is four tin ingots. I really wish my tongue would not get so tied.
It happens.
Yeah. You're going to need some redstone reception coils, which is two redstone dust and a gold ingot. You're going to need some redstone servos, and this is not to be confused with the next item. For the redstone servo, you need redstone, two redstone dust, and an iron ingot. Now, the servo, also not to be confused with the redstone servo, these do two completely different things. The redstone servo is generally a crafting item, an item for crafting other items. The servo, on the other hand, is something that works with the piping. So for the regular servo, You need 2 iron nuggets, 2 iron ingots, a piece of glass, and a redstone dust. The next thing you're going to need is a leadstone flux duct. You're going to need several of these. And to make them, you need 6 redstone dust, lead, 2 lead ingots, and a piece of glass. This is the lowest level of flux duct that you can make in thermal, so it is the cheapest, quickest. It will be the first one you'll be able to make. Everything after this is just going to be able to carry more RF.
I think at this point it's important that we point out that although the next 2 ducts you're about to explain here are part of vanilla Minecraft, remember that RF and flux are the way modded Minecraft keeps track of power, which is something that is completely different from regular redstone. Power can actually do work for you in your Minecraft world. So for those who are completely new to modded, we include this section here, and we'll show you how power works in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But go ahead and continue with the other ducts.
Yeah, the next duct you're going to need is a fluid duct, and you will need probably half a stack of these at least. Just have them handy. They are one of the most helpful, useful things, as well as the item ducts. The item ducts and the fluid ducts are probably some of the most used item duct kind of things that are within modded. To make the fluid duct, which this one is the clear one, I believe.
Yes.
There are several different versions. There's an opaque version, which means you won't see the fluid running through it. And then there's also this clear one, which needs 2 copper ingots and a piece of glass. And you get 6 for just those 3 items. Now, the next one is the item duct. Again, you're going to need probably about half a stack. And if you have any left over, great, because you're going to use them and need them for something else. Now, to make these in thermal, you need 2 tin ingots and hardened glass. Now, hardened glass is a little tricky to get right away. So that leads us to showing off. This is another recipe for the same item duct. It's still 2 tin ingots, but this time it's using fused quartz. However, I should point out that the fused quartz is from another mod called Ender.io. But the fused quartz is 3 pieces of fused quartz, or 3 pieces of quartz fused together in an amalgamator? No,
It's
an alloy.
alloy. It's the alloy, yes. In Ender.io.
Now, another item duct, which is not within thermal but is within modded as a whole, is an item conduit that is also from Ender.io, and this requires conduit binding and pulsating iron ingots, or pulsating iron nuggets. My apologies. This, it's a bit advanced, but it is also fairly easy to get to if you know how to get the items that you need for that. But that will also work just as well as the thermal item duct. It just maybe has a couple of things that you can do with it that maybe the item duct doesn't, or am I thinking wrongly on that?
No, you are correct. I would like to point out at this point, though, that to make the fused or the hardened glass that you need to make item ducts, I think this was slightly unbalanced, but that's just my personal opinion. You need to have an induction smelter from thermal, and in order to make that, you need nether bricks. Also, the fused quartz obviously requires quartz, so this is again a trip to the nether. The Ender.io item duct is made simply with these nuggets, and in order to make the pulsating iron, you simply need the alloyer and iron put into it, 4 iron or 5 iron, and 1 ender pearl. So
Right.
this, of all the recipes, is the one that you can make in the overworld
Right.
without having to actually go to the nether.
As long as you don't die to the Enderman.
Well, details, details.
um, another item that you may want to have, it's not necessary for it at the start, but a portable tank does help this setup immensely. So to make that, our old friend the redstone servo is back, and a copper ingot, and 3 pieces of glass. Now this portable tank, you can put sap in it, you can put resin in it, you can put water in it, you can put lava in it, you can put any fluid in this portable tank. It is a very useful item. So even if you don't use it for this setup, you can use it for something else. And lastly, for all the items that you need, well, all the basic stuff, is the crescent wrench. This comes in clutch for all sorts of things. This will help you rotate items. This will help you connect things off and on. You need this to work with this mod. And to make this, you need 3 iron ingots and 1 tin ingot. So it is very cheap to make. You're very capable of getting that very quickly. Now, this next section is of all the machines you're going to need to make the arboreal extraction system. You're going to need a fractionating still, and to make that, you need a nickel gear, which again is 4 nickel ingots, 2 pieces of glass, our dear friend the machine frame from earlier, a constand gear, which is 4, actually, my apologies, 2 constand gears, which would be 8 ingots of constand, which, that's nickel and copper?
Copper, that is correct.
Right. As I said, I am an apprentice. I don't always remember what combinations create what metals. And you need the redstone reception coil from earlier as well. You only need 1 of these, thankfully. Now, the next one is the aqueous accumulator. And you will need a bucket, 2 pieces of glass, the device frame from earlier, the redstone servo from earlier, and 2 iron gears. You only need 1 of those as well. Now, the next thing is the arboreal extractor. And if you have a 2x2 tree, you can put 8 of these around the base of the tree. So make as many as you can, or if you can make 8, make 8. These will give you the most RF, or the most material to create RF from. And to make this, you need 1 copper ingot, 2 planks of any type of wood, another device frame, or rather a device frame for each, a redstone servo for each, and 2 iron gears for however many you want. So that's a lot of iron. I get it. But iron is technically the easiest ore to find within the game. Now, the last thing that you may want to run, or make, rather, is an energy cell. Now, this isn't necessarily a machine, it is a storage device. It is this device that will store RF for you. So if you are making more than any of the machines that you have running can make, this can store it for use other times when you may not have as much power. It is also portable. You can break it, take it, and it will keep the power that it has stored in it so that you can take it somewhere else and use machines in another location just running off this battery. Now, to make this, you need 1 block of redstone, you need 2 lead ingots, a redstone conductance coil, and an energy cell frame. Now, these things, they're not that hard to make. It's just a configuration thing. Like the redstone conductance coil is 2 pieces of redstone and an electrum ingot. Now, electrum is silver and gold alloyed together. And the energy cell frame is 4 iron ingots, 4 pieces of glass, and a lead gear, which is 4 lead ingots. So it's all very easy to make. It's all easy to put together. This is probably one of the more useful blocks from this particular mod. Now, the last things you're going to need for this system are the dynamos. These are the devices that generate the RF that will run any of the machines through thermal, or any other mod, I believe, can run off these as well.
Yes, RF is generally a standard in modded Minecraft for the creation and moving of power. You will sometimes find this referenced in Ender.io as EU, and you will also hear it referenced as flux power or crystal flux in the old actually editions, but it's all the same thing. It's all treated the same way by all the machines from different mods.
You're going to need to make at least 1 steam dynamo, and to make this you need 2 iron ingots, 2 copper ingots, a copper gear, redstone dust, and a redstone transmission coil. Now, the other one is the compression dynamo. Again, you're going to need a transmission coil for it, 2 iron ingots, a tin gear, 2 tin ingots, and a redstone dust. Now, these, as I said, these are the things that are going to create the power that you're going to need to run your machines. These are essentially the key devices to any system to run RF through thermal.
Okay, so now that you are thoroughly confused by the amount of stuff that is available in modded, and you'll be able to obviously go back and review how to make all of this stuff, although JEI will tell you most of these recipes. It's just important that you know what you can make in this situation. But now let's talk about RF and its uses in modded. So, a few minutes ago, we described the steam dynamo. Now, this device, as the name implies, creates steam, but it does it all internally. And the important thing to know about this is probably going to be your first RF generation. So I'm going to put one down here. Now, this is where your crescent hammer comes in very handy. You'll notice that the dark portion here is pointing straight up. This is where the power actually comes out of your dynamo. And having it go straight up is usually inconvenient. So, especially for this demonstration. So we're going to right-click it once with the crescent hammer, and we're going to set it on its side, like so. Now, this dynamo uses solid fuel and water. So we're going to set it up here by the water, because this is probably what you're going to do. Now, most of modded is all about automation, but your first RF is not going to be automated. So you're going to grab a water bucket, and you're going to fill this guy. It takes 4 buckets of water to fill it. Now, the next thing it needs is solid fuel. Like anything that burns in a furnace, you can use in this dynamo as fuel. And you might be asking yourself at this point, why on earth would I go through all the trouble to make a dynamo to create power if I'm just going to use it to, for instance, run something like a redstone furnace? So now this furnace is, as the name implies, a furnace. It will smelt items and cook your food and everything else. But the steam dynamo is 60% more efficient than just throwing coal in a regular stone furnace. So even without any upgrades at all, this system is already winning over regular Minecraft mechanics. It will use your coal more efficiently, and later on with upgrades, it will do it much, much faster. But just to show you how this works, I'm going to throw a stack of coal into the steam dynamo, and you will see that it immediately starts making power. Now, if you right-click on the steam dynamo, you'll see several tabs telling you what's going on. The most important one now is the one in the upper left-hand corner. It's an orange tab, and if you click on that, you will see that this dynamo is making 40 RF per tick. And if you look at the redstone furnace in the upper left-hand corner, the tab is now blue because this one uses energy, and it only uses 20 RF per tick. So in this particular situation, this dynamo is producing twice as much power as this redstone furnace can use at any given time. And you're going to find that a lot, where even if you have a situation where you have many machines running, that you're generally speaking going to be producing more power than you need, or you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're constantly generating power, but it's going to be a lot less than what you need. But we'll address that in a minute. Now, okay, so this is the redstone furnace. You're pretty familiar with a furnace by now if you've played any kind of Minecraft. But now we're going to introduce you to a new mechanic. And this is, generally speaking, the advantage of modded, and that is this device here. This is a pulverizer. Now this device can take your regular ore. I'm going to put 3 iron ore in there. And what we're going to end up with is 6 pulverized iron. Now, before you were talking about alloying metals.
Right.
And this is where you can alloy metals in a manual sort of way.
Right. You need to crush them down to the powder in order to create the blend, I believe it is.
Yes, exactly. So, for instance, I'm going to get some copper, pulverized copper, and pulverized nickel. Now, if you take these 2 stacks, and put them into your personal crafting inventory, you will see that they make a Constantine blend, which is also pulverized. It's in powder form.
And it gives me 2 stacks because I had a stack of each.
Exactly. So before you start sweating the whole need to make an alloyer and all that other stuff, realize that all you need is a pulverizer. It does 2 things for you. First of all, it doubles your ores, and secondly, the powders you get from it are what you can use to make the alloys you need for a lot of these machines.
Right. And it does come in very handy.
It does. It is excellent. So again, this is more than likely going to be your first power setup. But then you're going to want to be able to run pulverizers, run your redstone furnaces, and your other machines as we get into it further.
And now, Briggsmech is going to show us how to put together the simplest arboreal extraction system that will give you RF on a consistent basis. Briggsmech.
Yes. Remember, the goal of this system is to take full advantage of modded without having to go totally crazy with some kind of automatic tree farm or what have you to generate your fuel. So the very first thing you're going to need is the arboreal extractor. So we're going to put down a couple of them here. Now you'll notice that as soon as I put them down, the little box at the bottom turned green. Now this is important because this tells you that the arboreal extractor has recognized this to be a naturally grown tree. You cannot have a made-up tree. You can't just put a bunch of logs down. And should you have a creeper come along, as has happened before, and blow up your tree, you can't just put the logs back and expect your arboreal extractors to work. This has to be a fully grown, natural tree. Okay.
No creeper explosions allowed.
No. Now, if you right-click on the arboreal extractor and look at the right-hand side, you'll see that we're already extracting resin.
Right.
Now, resin in and of itself can't really be used for anything. It is a crafting ingredient for something further down the road. Now, in order to convert the resin into something that is usable, you need to put down a fractionating still. Now, it has no power now, and we will deal with configuration and all that later. But first, we're going to maximize our arboreal extractors. So we're going to go ahead and put down 8 of these. And now, we're going to use our fluid ducts to automatically bring the resin that these guys are creating over to the fractionating still. Now, it's important in your plumbing to remember, I know for people who are OCD, it would be very tempting to just put this last piece of pipe fluid duct here, okay? But keep in mind that these are basically, you can think of them as hoppers, okay? If you make a complete circle, then the fluid doesn't have a definite endpoint and exit point. So you want to make sure, or as much as you can, try to have only inputs and then give them only one point to exit from.
Right.
So in this case, we're going to put it over here to the fractionating still. Now, here's where configuration comes in. If you right-click on the arboreal extractor, or actually any block in thermal, but we'll start with the arboreal extractor. There's a little gear, cog gear tab on the right-hand side. You open that up, and you'll be able to see how it's configured right now. You'll notice there is a blue square on the top and orange squares on the side. Now, that's not ideal for our setup. What we want to do is we want to tell it that any resin that it gets, it's going to pump straight out of the top. So we shift and left click the middle, or the part of the center block that looks like the face of the arboreal extractor, and that clears all of the configured inputs and outputs. Now we click on the top one. Once it turns blue, twice it turns orange, and you'll see that now your resin reservoir is highlighted. So now resin is going to go straight out of the top of the block. And now we have to do that to all of these blocks, to tell them that what we want is for all the resin to go out the top pipe. So go ahead and do that.
And the orange is for extraction and the blue is for input, right?
Exactly.
Is that all
Now,
of
if
them?
you come over,
Yep.
that should be all of them. Now, if
Oh,
you look
yes.
at your pipe, you'll see we've already got resin in it. Now, we right-click on the fractionating still. Now, you want to do the same thing, but this time we're going to have a little bit of a different situation. The fractionating still takes in a fluid and puts out a fluid. Now, in its default configuration, you'll see the taking in tank is blue.
Right.
There is also a yellow square. That is for the solid output. The still also puts out a solid product, an item, and we'll get into that in a minute. And then you'll see on the extreme right-hand side, there is a red tank, and that is the output of the still. Now, when you put resin into a fractionating still, what you're going to get out is tree oil. And tree oil is something we can use to create power with. So we will do the same thing here. We will left click on the center block in the configuration to clear it. And now you want your input on the top. So change the top to blue.
And immediately the resin starts flowing in.
Exactly. Now, for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to want the left-hand side to be the yellow solid output. Exactly. And on the right-hand side, I want the red fluid output. Okay, perfect. All right, now we're going to go back to our dynamos. Now, in this particular case, what we showed you before was the steam dynamo that used solid fuel and water. Now, the compression dynamo uses fluid fuel and water. So I'm going to put one of those down there. And now we're going to turn it. Actually, no, we're probably going to leave it like this, pointing straight up.
For now.
For now. Now, because we are into modded Minecraft and we love our automation, we are going to use our aqueous accumulator. Now, this device works in such a way that you only need one block of water on each side. So basically, any infinite water source, and you put the aqueous accumulator down in the middle, and it will automatically gather water for you. However, the more water that's around the aqueous accumulator, the faster it can gather it up. Now, I've found very few situations where one aqueous accumulator with just 2 blocks of water just can't keep up. But just so you know, this is the optimal way to put it down. Now, you'll notice there's
all sides and only 1 block deep.
Exactly. And you'll notice that there's only one orange block on the top. This guy is not configurable. It has no inputs. Its only function in life is to output water.
Right.
So now we grab our fluid duct and we start our piping. You'll see that it immediately fills with water. And we'll put it up to our compression dynamo. And it is instantly filled. So now, instead of having to bucket water into this thing, our aqueous accumulator is going to constantly keep it fed with water. All right? Now, this is where things get a little tricky. Now, the arboreal extractor and the aqueous accumulator are both passive machines. They require no power. They're just going to work as they work. They can't be upgraded. They can't be made to work any faster. But at the same time, they require no power to work.
And that's
the fractionating
true of any of the ones that are blue.
Exactly. Now, the arboreal or the Fractionating still, on the other hand, is one of the blocks that does require power. So what we're going to do is we're going to run our leadstone flux duct to the fractionating still. Back here a little bit. Make sure we don't interfere with anything else. There. So now, because the redstone flux is not an item or a fluid, it can be put into any face on the block. Okay. And it doesn't have to be configured. The fractionating still doesn't have to be told that, hey,
There's
you're
power.
getting power from that side. And that's true of most of the devices in modded. As soon as you hook power to any face of them, even the front face, it will start being powered. So in a situation like this, there are certain situations where you will find you're going to run out of faces very quickly.
Right.
So just be aware that in an emergency, you can use the front face of the device.
Yeah, all six sides can be used.
Exactly. Now, to complete our plumbing, we have our fluid resin coming in through our fluid ducts here. You can see it's filling up. And now we're going to have to take the product of the fractionated still and come out to our compression dynamo. So here, we're going to put down another fluid duct to our compression dynamo. Now at this point, our plumbing is complete, but however, nothing is happening. And that is because our fractionating still has no initial power. So this is where we are going to come back to our steam dynamo. Just to get things rolling here, we're going to put down a steam dynamo here. We're going to rotate it so that the top point points into our redstone flux duct. A little more fluid duct to make sure it stays full of water. And now we're going to throw in half a stack of coal. And what this is going to do is start generating power for us. Now you'll say that, as long as you have that power going, why would you need the compression dynamo? Well, this is kind of just a Kickstarter to make sure that the fractionating still is starting to produce the fuel that our compression dynamo needs. Eventually, you won't need the steam dynamo at all. The system will be self-contained and maintain itself. There we go. We just saw some tree sap get put out of the fractionating still, and now our compression dynamo is active. And you can always tell when a dynamo is active because the top part of it will flash red. So it is producing power at this point.
Which is the most important thing if you're needing to run machines.
Exactly.
Now, fractionating still already has some rosin in it.
Yes, it is a byproduct of the distilling process. Now, there are two things you can do with rosin, which are very wonderful early game. But first, what we're going to do is we're going to take an item duct here, and we're going to come out here to the yellow output that you configured earlier. And we're going to put the rosin balls into a chest, in this case, a crate, which is another modded item, but you can use a chest if you want to.
Right.
And you'll notice that the rosin balls are still in the fractionating still. Now, earlier you mentioned a device called a servo.
Right.
So we need to put the servo onto the item duct, and you need to right-click on it. And in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a red tab with a piece of redstone on it. Click on that, and you want to change the redstone mode to ignored. Now, if you come out of that GUI, you will now look at the redstone servo, and you'll see that it is lit up.
Right.
So if you put it on redstone mode high, you can actually put a switch here and turn this servo on and off as you need it. But that's neither here nor there. Right now, we're more interested in just getting the rosin balls out of the fractionated still, because if it fills up with rosin balls, it will stop distilling.
Right.
And we
And we
definitely
don't
don't
want
want
that.
that. Yeah, we definitely don't want that. One of the advantage of rosin balls is that if you click, if you open the chest or crate
Mm-hmm.
and put your arrow over the rosin ball and hit the letter U, you will see all the uses for rosin. And just about any recipe that needs slime, you can substitute a rosin ball for.
Right, and also when you hover over it, it actually tells you the burn time.
Yes, you can also use these as fuel. So should your chest and or crate be getting filled up, the simplest thing to do is to take another item duct, come out of your crate, put another servo on it, ignore the servo mode, and now when this steam dynamo runs out of coal, it will start downloading the rosin balls into it to burn them for a little extra power.
And that's where the energy cell comes in.
Well, the energy cell will be useful here in a moment,
Yes.
because right now we're producing, if you open the compression dynamo, look on the left hand side,
Right. It's
we're
producing
producing
more than is being used.
exactly. So these dynamos are self-throttling. So if you look at the center part there, you will see the center red bar. You'll see that we're storing a little over 21,000 RF right now. The more this bar fills up, the less energy output the dynamo will do. It can do a maximum of 40, but right now we're at 20 because half of its internal power is already full.
Right.
So each dynamo can store a small amount of power. So, so now we're generating power, and the only device in here that is using power is our fractionating still.
Right.
If you right click on it, you will see in the upper left hand corner that it only needs 20 RF per tick to run. So of the two devices, the compression dynamo and the steam dynamo, we can produce 80 RF per tick, and we only need 20 right now.
Right.
So this system is not only self-contained, self-fueling, but it is also already at the point where we're producing way more power than we need.
It's to the point where we can actually start putting on things like the pulverizer or the redstone furnace.
Exactly. And you don't have to worry about refueling any of this, because the arboreal extractors will fill the fractionating still with rosin. The fractionated still will fill your compressor dynamo.
Yeah. The resin becomes tree sap or tree oil, rather. And that becomes energy. That goes right back in to make more resin into tree oil.
Exactly. Other than solar power, which a lot of mod packs don't come with, um, this is, for as complicated as it looks, this is the most reliable system of set it and forget it kind of power.
And I can attest to that, having been walked through this a couple of times to set it up for my own single players. This is probably the most reliable system I've ever used.
Now, this system, again, is pretty basic. I mean, 80 RF per tick is not a huge amount of power. So this, even at its most upgraded, will probably only see you through about the middle of your game. And then you'll have to make either much better dynamos or move to a different mod for your power generation. But when you're talking about your basic starter base and even your more advanced starter or your more advanced bases, when you just need power to do your basic ore processing and stuff like that, even late game, this system is still viable. It will run just about everything you need to do. It won't be super fast, but again, how fast do you need it to be? Unless you're in a hurry to craft something,
Mm.
you'll be
Yeah.
able to do everything with this.
Just need a little patience sometimes.
Hmm.
But this definitely outstrips regular vanilla,
Oh, yes.
which is why it's a mod.
All right. So this is the basic setup that we've just finished covering. And now you ask yourself, well, you said that this system would handle me through the mid game.
Right.
And obviously, like this, it won't do it because we're just not producing enough power and we're not using our tree oil as efficiently as we can be.
Right.
So,
It's been running a while, so we actually added a portable tank on top of here. It looks like it's empty, but it really isn't. If you see underneath the basic stuff, it is full.
yes, you'll want to add buffers in to these situations. So, for instance, this is the buffer for the resin. And ideally, you'd want another buffer in here for your tree oil because we're about to start making a lot more of it a lot faster.
Right.
But we'll get to that in a second.
Hmm.
Now, right now, the way our steam dynamo, our compression dynamo is configured, it's producing RF directly
Right.
out of it. But this isn't the most efficient way to use this. And what we're going to do here is we're going to grab some upgrades. This is the hardened upgrade kit, and this is the reinforced upgrade kit. And we'll need both of these on pretty much every machine. So I'm going to go ahead and install the hardened upgrade kit on the fractionating still
And
and the compression dynamo.
you'll notice on the corners turn different colors with each of the upgrades.
And then we'll put down the reinforced on both of these. And now, if you open the compression dynamo, in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a green tab that says augmentation. Now this is where, now the dynamo itself has already been upgraded. If you look at the orange tab in the upper left-hand side, you'll see that with no augmentations, we are already making 80 RF per tick. So we're
Right.
generating twice as much power as we were before. But we have a long way we can go. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my crescent hammer and I'm going to right click on these RF conduits. Now that's a very quick way of breaking them without mining them. That's one of the advantages of the crescent hammer. Now I'm going to turn the compression dynamo on its side, like so. Now the very first augment we're going to add is the turbine conversion. Oh, we're going to have to put down a new dynamo for this. So now we're going to attempt to use our fuel, our tree oil, more efficiently than we were before. Now this is where thermal gets a little complicated. So we have our compression dynamo, which under normal circumstances uses fluid, fuel, and water to create internal steam, and then it just pumps out RF here at the funnel point. Okay.
Right.
But what we've done is we've augmented it twice. So now we have, if you look in the augmentation, we have 2 augmentation slots we can use.
Right.
Now the first augment we're going to put in is a boiler conversion. And then the next augment we're going to put in is an auxiliary transmission coil. Now once we put the boiler conversion in, you'll notice that the nose of the funnel has now turned clear.
Oh.
So it is no longer producing RF. Now we are actually producing steam.
Oh,
Okay,
that's something
so
new.
yeah, it is. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put down two steam dynamos, and I'll show you why we're going to do that here in a second.
Okay.
And we're going to leave them pointing straight up because we're going to feed them right back into the
Power.
leadstone flux duct. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and upgrade both of these to reinforced. And now, if you look at them, we have two augmentation slots in them.
Right.
So we're going to use those augmentation slots to put in one auxiliary transmission coil and one turbine conversion.
Okay. Oh, wow. I just saw the jump of how much
Okay.
power can be produced.
Yeah. Okay. So we've upgraded our dynamo, our compression dynamo, with a boiler conversion. So it is now boiling water using the fuel and water that we're feeding it. Or it's
Or
not
will
doing
be.
it yet. It will be. And then our steam dynamos have been converted to actually, they have the turbines in them to actually take the steam and turn it into RF. Okay. Now, if you right click on the compression dynamo and look at the upper left hand tab, it has now been changed.
It doesn't say RF, it says MB, which I think is millibuckets?
Exactly. Millibuckets of steam that it can produce.
Oh.
Okay.
So we've
Now,
taken the compression dynamo from creating the RF to using it to create something for the steam dynamos to create the RF.
exactly. Now we're going to take and we're going to upgrade the compression dynamo one more time to the Signalium upgrade. Now, again, you'll have to use JEI to figure out how to make all of these upgrades, because to go through them all right now would take forever.
It would take quite a while, and it would make this tutorial much longer.
Yes. And it's not super important that you know how to make all this stuff, because JEI will tell you how to do it.
Yes.
What's important is how we're going to set it up and use it all. So if you look in the augmentation slot now, I have two auxiliary transmission coils, and if you look in the upper left-hand corner, we can now produce 400 millibuckets of
Wow.
steam. Now,
That's
if
a
you
lot.
look at the steam dynamos, and in the upper left-hand corner, they now have steam usage.
Okay. And they each use 200, so we've essentially upgraded this to be able to run both.
Exactly. So now this is the important part. You have to hook them up using hardened fluid ducts, because if you don't use hardened fluid ducts, if you use a regular fluid duct, the steam is considered a fluid, these will explode on you. The regular fluid ducts will explode.
Right.
And the same is true as if you tried to pipe lava through a regular fluid duct. It would also explode on you. Probably not right away, but it would explode.
Right. These are the bare basic. These are good for anything that is not heated, I believe.
Yes, or under pressure.
Right.
So now we're going to go ahead and hook up the compression dynamo.
Oh. The fluid ducts do connect to one another.
All right, so let's do that again. Put down our hardened fluid ducts, and then we will run our regular fluid duct. To this case, we're not going to take any chances here. We're going to run it underneath.
Yeah, we don't want them connecting, because any fluid that goes in here first is what's going to be always pushed through there. That's why
Exactly.
we needed to alter the course of the water to prevent it from connecting with the steam.
Exactly. So now we're going to connect the fuel, the tree sap or tree oil, to the compression dynamo. Now, if you notice, the tree oil, it's automatically filled up with tree oil, and if you look at our hardened fluid ducts, they're already filled with steam.
Steam, yes.
Okay. And then if you look at the steam dynamos, they are pumping out
RF.
massive amounts of power now. Each one is producing 400 RF per tick, so this system in total is producing 800 RF per tick.
Which should
Using
run pretty much everything and anything you need mid-game.
exactly. So now what we need to do is we need to upgrade our fractionating still a little bit because
It's having
it's,
trouble keeping up.
well, it's also running out of power because we've disconnected the power system and we've had it disconnected for
For a
quite a
while.
while. The important thing to note here is that, and we actually do want this to run out of fuel here, because the important thing to note here is these dynamos are not self-limiting anymore, okay? They are burning fuel all the time. Whether you need it or not, they're burning it.
All right.
Okay? So we're going to disconnect the fractionating still, and now we're going to set up the more complex system for controlling this situation.
All right.
So what we're going to do here, this is where the energy cell is necessary, absolutely necessary. So I'm going to put down a building block here. Well, actually, I'll use a chest as a building block. Or actually, no, probably be better if I did this on the ground. So now I'm going to take the leadstone flux duct, and I'm going to take the output of these two dynamos, and I'm going to put them as an input into the energy cell. Okay, and you'll see the energy cell is starting to fill up.
All right.
Oh, we've just run out of fuel. Excellent. All right. So now you ask yourself, well, what do we do with this? Here's where we use a little old-fashioned regular Minecraft redstone. We're going to put a comparator on this cell, on this energy cell. Okay.
Okay.
A dot of redstone. You'll see that the energy cell has some power in it, and the comparator will tell us how much power it has based upon. So, for instance, if this energy cell, it can store 2 million RF total without any upgrades.
A lot.
A lot. But if we were to say have 1 million RF in it, it would be at 50% power. Now, maximum redstone signal is 15. So if we had 1 million RF in here, then what we would have is we would have 8. A redstone signal of 8. So
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Actually, we need to bring it up one more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay.
All right.
Now we right click on the compression dynamo, the little
the redstone control.
Exactly. So you want to set the signal required to be low.
Okay.
Now the logic here is that when this, because we're at 13, this energy cell here is going to be about 75 to 80% full in order to produce a redstone signal that will come all the way over here.
Right.
As soon as it goes high, it will turn the steam dynamo off.
Okay.
Right?
And so, that will prevent it from burning fuel unnecessarily.
Exactly. It will only start burning fuel when the redstone signal falls to 12, and that will be when this energy cell has some RF pulled out of it.
Right.
So right now it needs to be charged. So this would be a great time to hook our fractionating still back up. Let me just check something here. Yes, we have resin.
I think with the reinforced upgrade, the poor little starter steam dynamo
Oh no,
can't keep
no,
up.
it's fine. It's fine.
Oh.
Yeah, we had to take the, if you look at the portable tank, I had to right click it with the wrench to make sure that the bottom was orange.
Ah.
See, now it's an output, so the fluid duct below it is now filled with resin.
Okay.
So it's making tree sap right now, and
Right.
it's filling this fluid duct. So I'm going to put one more fluid duct down and go ahead and power our compression dynamo, or give it tree oil so that it can produce
Right.
steam. So now the
And
same.
quite frankly, the you can watch the signal essentially.
Exactly. And if you right click on the energy cell, you'll see how quickly it's filling up.
Right. By hovering over the center bar. That is amazing.
Once it gets to about 80% full, it will turn off this compression dynamo.
Right. And you can see it is advancing fairly quickly.
It is. The other advantage here too is because we're using steam, we're making steam out of the tree oil, we're getting 200% efficiency out of it. It is producing twice the amount of power per bucket of tree oil that the just converting it directly into RF was doing.
Right. And the last one should.
And now you'll see the hardened fluid duct is empty.
Yep.
Now what we want to do is, if you click on the, oh, it was almost 90% full.
Yeah.
Okay. If you click on the energy cell on the configuration tab, the one that looks like a gear,
All right.
you'll see that right now the only output is straight down, the only one that's orange. All the other faces are blue, so they're inputs.
Right.
So we want to click on the back of the energy cell, which is the one in the bottom right-hand corner, and change it to an output. Now if you come back here, you'll see that this face is now has the orange tabs on it. So now we're going to take our leadstone flux duct and connect it back into our main power system. And we want to make sure that these two ducts do not connect.
So definitely keep a space between them.
Space between them is good. So now we have a tremendous amount of power to use. 800 RF per tick will pretty much handle just about any single machine or set of machines that you may have, even in the most advanced situations. And we'll give a demonstration of this right quick. So for instance, let's have our redstone furnace and our pulverizer here. Okay, so I'm going to put down a redstone furnace and a pulverizer.
Right.
Now, just like our other machines, we're going to augment them. We're going to use our hardened augments. We're going to use our reinforced. And now we're going to connect them with an item duct. Item duct. Actually, I think I have this backwards.
I think you might.
Yeah.
You want the pulverizer first.
Yeah, I do. Okay, so give me a second here. Fix this. Pulverizer first, redstone furnace, and now item duct. I don't need a fluid duct, I need an iron duct. Iron duct. There. And now we're going to put a chest on top. There, and then an output down here. Now, this is where we're going to go through and we're going to change all the configurations again.
Yeah, don't forget to upgrade them.
Oh, yes. So first, put the upgrades on, just to show you how fast. And these aren't even the best upgrades. Just keep that in mind.
These are mid-grade.
We're going to go ahead and augment them. Now, any machine that uses power doesn't need a transmission coil. It needs a reception coil to upgrade the amount of power it can use in order to do anything. So I've upgraded these twice, and even with 2 upgrades, they're only using 120 RF each.
Right, and
so
that's
total
well below what we're making.
Yeah. So total here, we're looking at 240 RF that both of these machines would need to run at the same time.
Right.
Now, we're going to go ahead and configure them. I'm going to configure you configure the pulverizer to take in from the top and put out on the right-hand side. Put its output to the right. And I'm going to take the redstone furnace and configure it to take in from the left and output on the right.
Right.
Now we're going to take a couple of servos here. Change the redstone control to ignored. All right. Now we're going to wire up some power.
I'm guessing you're going to put in a bunch of ores because you put a crate up there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now remember, we want the output of the energy cell, the one that's not connected to the 2 dynamos. This is our product power.
Right.
Okay. So we're going to take that power, and as you can see,
they're already filled up and ready to go.
Ready to go. Now you come back over here. Oh wow, our steam dynamo is already caught up.
Yeah.
So you dumped a little steam in there just to
top it up.
Take care of the power that was needed. Now if you look at the center bar of the energy cell, you'll see that it is constantly falling.
Right.
But that is because the one device that is still constantly using power is the fractionating
still.
So, and it's also using 120 RF per tick because we've upgraded it. Right. But it is actually producing a lot more tree oil than we really need right now. But that's okay. We'll let it go. All right. So now we will take a stack of iron ore, which I foolishly got rid of earlier.
At least they're not watching yours.
We'll throw it into the small storage crate up there. You'll see that the iron ore is automatically being pulled into the pulverizer. And then the output from the pulverizer is automatically going into the redstone furnace. Now look at how fast we are processing ores.
Yes. Now, here's another question. Because it is the pulverizer and because it's doing different ores, there's always a byproduct.
You can put in a chest that will act as a buffer between the pulverizer and the redstone furnace, but just about everything other than pulverizing gold produces a byproduct that it is also smeltable in the furnace.
Right.
So most of the time, I just let this go unless I have a tremendous amount of ores that I'm doing. Right. So you'll see the one stack of iron ore that we've done has only produced 2 byproduct of nickel. So in order to fill the byproduct slot, you'd have to put in 20 or more stacks
I
of.
don't know. We're not done through the stack yet. But there is another way to configure this, is there not? So that
Yeah,
it
you.
takes from the actual um, product first and then the byproduct second?
Well, it is a good idea, especially if you're doing gold, to take the byproduct and put it into a separate chest. And in that
Okay.
case, you would go straight down with
Down
an
into
item.
a chest and.
Yeah, just like the fractionating still has multiple outputs,
Right.
and we configured the solid output to go to this chest back here, you would do the same thing for the pulverizer, only this time you would take the secondary output and
And
put
put
it
it
into
down.
a chest. But
Right.
again, this is just an example of how to use the power and what a tremendous amount of power can do for you.
Yes. And just being at the reinforced level, it's producing, or not producing, it's smelting things so quickly that you don't have to wait very long. And upgrading it further means it's going to go even faster.
Exactly. Oh, we need to configure this second output here. There we go. Now the nickel will go into the redstone furnace too.
Yeah. And as you can see, it is very quick, quicker than even the blast furnace.
Very quick. And this is only the middle of the road in upgrades.
Right.
Now, of course, you can use power for all sorts of things besides just ore doubling and things of that nature. In modded Minecraft, there's almost always a way to automatically mine, and or if you have armor that uses power, this
Right.
is a way to recharge the power in your armor and your tools. Uh, so, but again, that's for another video. This
Yes.
one we're just concentrating on how to most efficiently set up
Use.
steam and compression dynamos in order to generate the most amount of power that is renewable and that you basically don't ever have to worry about.
Right. And it is, even if you don't go to this length of it, even if you never have to, you at least now know how to set up a very basic version of this to create and generate RF to run tools and machines for you to help you in your modded journey.
Just stick a little more resin in there just to make sure.
Just because, right?
Right. So yeah, this is the setup. And remember, at this point, you can also upgrade. You can use the same upgrades that you used on the machines on this tank, because right now it only holds 16 buckets, and you can upgrade it all the way up to 256 buckets.
Right.
And as you're also producing, as you can store excess resin, you can also store excess tree oil should you want to buffer here too.
Right.
Because what I found is most of the time uh, I'm setting up a series of machines that use way more power than I can generate at any given time. So I like to store as much of the intermediate steps as possible so that when that burst is needed of heavier power,
You have the
there
ability to get to it quickly.
and the system can keep up with the amount of generation that will be needed.
Right.
But I know this looks complex, but hopefully we've made it clear how each individual part works, and good luck at setting this up in your own world. And
Yes.
again, I know that a lot of people are not playing the 112 packs anymore and they're going to 116, and we will do this again for the 116 version of thermal.
And 117 if it comes out before then.
Exactly. But if you do go back, because 112 packs are awesome to play,
And have
This
a
is,
lot of variety.
yes, they do. This
Mm-hmm.
is what I consider to be one of the best starter to mid game power setups that you can have.
And there you go, guys. This is the beginning setup for power with thermal craft, and it is very, very useful. Now, in the next episode, next tutorial, we're going to go through a lot of the machines and devices that you can use in thermal to help you automate things like auto crafting, creating ice or snowballs, um, using magma to create all sorts of things, as well as a machine that allows you to make the viaducts, which is not an item transport, it's not a fluid transport, it's not even an energy transport, it's a player transport. So until then, guys, I hope you are well, and I hope all of this has helped you on your modded journey. Until next time, bye.
Bye bye.